Hey everyone, it's Alex, and I am back with another video preview for the 91st Academy Awards. Today I'm here to talk about the 20 contenders for the category of Best Visual Effects. Now, Best Visual Effects is one of many categories that have predetermined shortlists that get winded down to a bunch of semifinalists, and then from those semifinalists, the 5 official Oscar nominees will be chosen. In the past, I've normally been making a lot of videos in December about shortlists and semifinalist lists, but I haven't been doing too much of that lately because this year the Oscars are only doing a few select reveals of full shortlists, and then on December 17th they're going to drop a bunch of shortlists for tons of categories, as well as semifinalist lists for things like makeup and hairstyling, original score, original song, all the short film categories, the documentary category. So there's going to be a lot of stuff coming out in the next few weeks, and I'll probably be making bigger, longer videos about all of those. But Best Visual Effects will be another category in which they'll take all these contenders and whittle them down, in this case to 10 semifinalists, and I'll make a separate video about that when the time comes, and then from those 10 semifinalists, the 5 official nominees will be chosen. So what I'm going to do, like I've always done, is I'm going to read off the 20 contenders for Best Visual Effects, and as well as talk about some of them, what I like, what I don't like, and what I hope at least makes it into the semifinalist list for now. So, the 20 contenders are Ant-Man and the Wasp, Aquaman, Avengers: Infinity War, Black Panther, Bumblebee, Christopher Robin, Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, First Man, Incredibles 2, Isle of Dogs, Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, Mary Poppins Returns, Mission Impossible: Fallout, Mortal Engines, The Nutcracker and the Four Realms, Paddington 2, A Quiet Place, Ready Player One, Solo: A Star Wars Story, Welcome to Marwen. Alright, so all the superhero films I can't really talk about because I'm very far behind on them. I'm sure several of them will make it into the 10 semifinalists. I'm sure Black Panther and Avengers: Infinity War are locks for the semifinalist list. Ant-Man and the Wasp and Aquaman, we'll see. Bumblebee, I mean, that could probably make it into the semifinalist list, but Oscar voters may be wary of having another Transformers movie be eligible here, because they stopped nominating them for anything after the third film, Dark of the Moon. But I mean, word on Bumblebee has actually been surprisingly positive so far, although I'm not really planning on seeing it because I really can't stand Transformers and I don't think anything can change my mind about them. Christopher Robin, I did see that, and those effects were nice, you know, with bringing all the 100 Acre Wood characters back to life and in the form of the stuffed animals rather than like the two-dimensional cartoon drawings we were used to seeing from Disney films. But they looked really good here. In fact, Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, I thought the effects were decent. I wouldn't say they're as good as some of the other main Harry Potter films, but you could have done a lot worse. First Man, amazing effects, very practical, very realistic looking. You know, I'm sure CGI was probably used quite a lot, but when it was, I couldn't tell where it was being used, and it just looked fantastic. It was one of the most realistic looking films of the year, visual effects or no visual effects. Incredibles 2, very good excellent visual effects. This was definitely a sequel worth the 14-year wait. Isle of Dogs, fantastic stop motion effects. Stop motion animated films do get shown occasional love from the Academy in this category. We've seen it twice with The Nightmare Before Christmas way back in 1993, and then of course 2 years ago with Kubo and the Two Strings. So, and given that Isle of Dogs is directed by Wes Anderson, who is an Academy favorite, that could certainly help it gain momentum here. Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, didn't bother seeing that. I didn't even see the first Jurassic World because it looked completely pointless to me, but it made a boatload of money, so of course they're going to make a sequel. and I've heard mixed reactions from it. I heard a few people who thought it was a guilty pleasure, but most people I know hated it. Mary Poppins Returns, of course that hasn't come out in wide release yet as I'm making this video, but I've heard very positive things so far from like early social media reactions from critics who have seen it, and the trailer's been fantastic. I mean, the visual effects in there look great, especially with how they incorporate the 2D animation sequences, much like how they did it from the original 1964 film. Just from what I've seen in the trailer, I hope it will land in the semi-finalist list. Mission Impossible Fallout, didn't get to see that unfortunately. I'm not sure how much visual effects were used in that, because I know Tom Cruise likes to be very realistic, especially with his stunts. I guess there's maybe explosions or something. Mortal Engines, haven't seen that yet because obviously it hasn't come out while I'm making this video, but to be honest, from the trailer it looks like nothing but a Mad Max ripoff. I mean, I know it is based on a series of books, so they have to obviously draw from that, and I know that Peter Jackson and his Lord of the Rings co-writers, Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens, wrote the screenplay, so I know that's why a lot of people are excited, but Peter Jackson didn't direct it. He chose not to direct it so that he could focus on directing his new World War I documentary called They Shall Not Grow Old. And sadly, that documentary is not eligible for Best Documentary Feature at the Oscars simply because it wasn't submitted in time for consideration. I think that's because Peter Jackson was still putting the finishing touches on it, and it simply wasn't ready. Will it appear on the eligible films for Best Picture? I don't know. There's a strong possibility it might, but I don't know if it's going to be nominated there. But anyway, they got this visual effects artist, Christian Rivers, I think his name is, who's directing this, and I think it's his directorial debut. And visual effects artists transitioning to actual directing don't always have a great track record. The Nutcracker in the Four Realms, I mean, there were some moments that did look absolutely visually dazzling, but there were other moments where the CGI was just very obvious and very iffy, and the film itself was just a massive disappointment. Mackenzie Foy was alright, and the costumes were magnificent, but a lot of the other actors were either wasted, like Helen Mirren, or downright awful, like Keira Knightley. She had this very squeaky voice that made her sound like a really bad fusion of Bernadette Peters and Megan Mullally, two actresses who are very well known for having squeaky voices, except their squeaky voices make them endearing, and the voice Keira Knightley uses as a sugar plum fairy in this movie, definitely not. Paddington 2, did not see that. I haven't seen the first Paddington either, although I'm sure obviously it's being considered here because of the fact that it's a CGI bear, kind of like in The Revenant. A Quiet Place, I like that a lot. The aliens I thought looked absolutely fantastic. I mean, they were obviously CGI aliens, of course, but they blended in very well. It felt very realistic. Nothing at all felt iffy about it, and it was one of the most intense movie-going experiences I think I've ever had. And like the theater was dead silent, you know, because in horror movies you always hear people go whispering to each other, being like, no, or screaming, but here, like, it was so quiet you could hear a pin drop on water. Ready Player One, of course that'd be in here because that film is just visual effects galore. And normally films that are visual effects galore aren't always the best films. They often sacrifice quality acting, writing, and directing in favor of the visual effects. But of course Steven Spielberg is the one who directed Ready Player One. And of course, with someone like him, he's not going to sacrifice acting, writing, and directing just in the name of visual effects. Because Ready Player One, the visual effects in this movie are just absolutely beautiful to behold. They really make you feel like you're inside this giant virtual reality world that the characters go into. You know, all the video game designs look really cool, and you know, made you feel like you were having a genuinely fun time watching it. And Solo: A Star Wars Story, fantastic effects. Every Star Wars movie usually always has some pretty fantastic effects. This one is no different. The Kessel Run sequence, absolutely brilliant, and those effects alone, I think, should guarantee it an official nomination. Same with Ready Player One with all its effects put together. Like those two, if those two in particular do not get nominated in the final nominations, I will be very upset. And welcome to Marwen. That hasn't come out yet. It comes out on the 21st. But I could definitely see a possibility for it being put into the semi-finalist list and maybe even possibly actually getting nominated, because a good portion of it, at least from what I see in the trailer, is going to be told through animatronics with dolls. Because in the movie, Steve Carell plays this man who is savagely beaten by these neo-Nazi thugs, and he like loses all his memories, and he builds this like World War II village full of these dolls based on women he's known, and the women end up being literally represented on the dolls, like the actresses like Janelle Monáe, Leslie Mann, Eiza Gonzalez, like their faces literally appear on these dolls, and of course they play the real life women who inspire Steve Carell's character. And this is actually based on a true story, too. And of course it's directed by Robert Zemeckis, who's made many films that are well regarded for their visual effects, like the Back to the Future trilogy, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Forrest Gump, etc., etc. So I don't know which of these films are going to actually make the semi-finalist lists, and I'm not necessarily going to do a full top 10, because that honestly would take me a long time to try and narrow down, because in a way all of these films obviously have their own merits to possibly getting put into the top 10 semi-finalists. But if there are ones that I want to see get in for sure based on ones that I've actually seen, then I'm definitely going to say First Man, Isle of Dogs, A Quiet Place, Ready Player One, and Solo: A Star Wars Story. Those 5 in particular, I hope make the semi-finalist list, because if they don't, I'm going to be very upset. So that is it for my video on the 20 contenders for Best Visual Effects. Like I said at the beginning of the video, we're going to get a major news release on December 17th of basically every semi-finalist list out there of all the categories that have semi-finalist lists, and because we're getting them all at once, I'm going to make longer videos where I cover several of them at a time and not individual ones like I've done in the past, because in the past all those lists would come out gradually from like October to December, but since we're getting them now all at once, I'm simply not going to have time to make individual videos about them. The longer videos may take a little longer to film and edit, but they'll ultimately save me more time than trying to make smaller 5 to 10 minute videos like every single day. So let me know in the comments section below what you think of these contenders for Best Visual Effects. Which films do you hope make the semi-finalist lists, and also which films do you hope become the official Oscar nominees? Let me know in the comment section below, and also subscribe to my channel if you've not yet already done so, and click the little notification bell so you can get all my new videos as soon as they're uploaded. And I will be back soon with a new series of videos about the hosts for the Golden Globes and Screen Actors Guild Awards. So stay tuned for those, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!